Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lizard Brains podcast. I'm your host, DJ Alessandrini. I'm joined by my co-host, Tom O'Gorman. Tom, how's it going?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Your wave shows up beautifully on the microphone.
You can't see me
Actually,
on the microphone.
if
Yeah,
you do it fast enough, we can absolutely see you.
I'm doing good. Cool hat, dude.
Thanks. It's my new hat, new me.
New hat, new me. Porsche hat.
It's a Porsche hat. Yeah, I might be turning. You know what? I think I've went full circle, Tom. I started off as a car guy, got into racing, and then I found Porsches, and now I might be turning back into a car guy.
That's a type of car guy. I would say when I think of car guy, I think like the car show audience,
Open hood.
SEMA. When I think of Porsche guy, I think of like they're too good for all that stuff. That's a different kind of car guy.
Yeah, you really don't
Am
see
I
that
right?
many Porsches that I might actually, you know what it is? I think I might have found my car. I can't afford to get one, but I have found my car.
Which is
Just Porsches.
a Porsche. Okay.
Yeah.
It's the loudest for if you're just listening to audio. It's like a graffiti style hat or almost like a ransom note. It's like all these words like collaged together. It's the loudest Porsche hat or piece of merch I've ever seen in my life.
It is
Usually
pretty
it's
loud.
just like all black with one little like Porsche.
Yeah. This is not
Wait,
that.
can I show you this? I have a funny shirt.
Okay, I'll kill
Wait,
air.
it's a podcast.
Okay.
I don't.
I'm
No. It doesn't-
entertaining the people.
Okay, go for it. Hang on.
All right. Well, I put myself on this spot to entertain. Wow, Tom is athletic. Did you guys just see how he jumped over that bed? Oh my God. In one leap, Tom just
All right, I got it.
cleared. Tom, I was commentating how athletic you were. You literally, you just bound over the bed in like one leap. All
Yeah.
right. All right. What are you showing the camera right here? I'm
I am an athlete.
I'm gonna describe it.
So-
okay.
We got some free merch from the dealership that Salil maintains his Porsche at, and they gave us this shirt that Salil absolutely hates, and it says,
Porsche. It's a 2-syllable word. That's. I feel like only a Porsche owner would wear that shirt.
I know. He's like, this is the most pretentious Porsche thing you could possibly be. It's Porsche.
Porsche.
Yeah. Nice.
What are you gonna wear that shirt? You should wear it.
Do you want it?
to your next? I'll wear
I'll
it.
give it to you.
I don't give a shit. I don't own a Porsche, but I can pretend.
Oh, I have an exciting piece of information.
Mhm.
This is related. Salil bought a car.
Oh, you're releasing that information on the podcast?
I think it's okay. He doesn't have social media, so he's never going to find out about it.
This is
But
how
he bought a.
Well, I think he listens to the podcast too. So like this. Hey, Salil, guess what? Everyone's finding out about the car you bought.
Yeah. He bought a car for. Well, I'm not going to tell everybody what it is. Maybe I
Oh.
should. I'll let him do that. But he bought a car
He bought a
for
car.
one lap next year.
Should be fast. It
Should be fast.
has the same engine as his last car.
You would know better than me, car guy.
Oh man, this Porsche hat's freaking kicking in right now, dude.
It's going to start getting tighter and tighter and not going to fit on your. Like, it won't come off after a while. It'll be like the wedding ring. You'll just be stuck with it forever.
It's like surgically attached to my head.
Yeah.
It's like a tree growing around a fence.
You're a tree.
I'm
Yeah,
a tree
that's
and the hat's my fence. Yeah.
I'm a Porsche tree.
When is testing starting? Because you kind of have to get some development drives into it. You can't just show up to one lap and be like, yeah, we'll be fine.
Probably not this calendar year. It'll be March and April next year, cramming stuff in.
Oh, really? That will be quite the cram. Because you got to wait for like parts and things to show up. So if you like drive it
Yeah, it
one
needs-
weekend and it needs like more spring or this or that, or you need more camber, and then you need to order different parts to do that, or you know what I mean? Because like it's not going to be stock, right? You guys are going to modify it.
Well, he's got a fixed set of modifications that I don't think are going to go past that. Basically, what was done to the GT3, like
Well-
the cage in the back and the brakes and you got a set of wheels for it, like really basic stuff.
Oh, I thought he was going to do like coilovers and aero and stuff.
Not yet.
Okay.
That's like that's a 2 year plan.
All
This first year is just like it is what it is.
Well, next weekend I get to see how a 911 GT3 RS acts on tiny Bridgestones.
I cannot wait to hear about that because I have a feeling it's going to work after all of the things we went through.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I hope it's awesome. It's got to be better than those ECFs, dude. So
It's going to be so much better than that.
I can't
Holy
wait to
cow.
drive it. It's gonna be so good. So
Yeah.
Tom, you had this Instagram story where you were driving your car out in the rain and you had some fun sliding it around. And
Yeah.
oh man, I wish I could do that. And then I remembered that I own an FRS
Yeah.
and it was
You
raining
totally
today.
can.
Yeah, it was raining today, so I took it out and slid it around. So I was
Does
like,
it actually slide? Is it powerful enough?
you kind of have to initiate it. But I tell you what, when I was grabbing my dinner, the parking lot that as I was driving to the drive-through, I slid like into the lane. That it was slippery
Yeah.
enough in a parking lot to do it. So
Nice. I wondered about that story. I almost posted it as a reel, but then I got cold feet because it's breaking the law on the road, and I don't know how that comes off.
is it breaking the law?
Like turning your traction control off and drifting on purpose. You
It's-
could get a
you
ticket
just-
for that.
You just lost traction, Tom. Oh my God, that was so scary.
Okay, but filming it with one hand and posting it on the internet is what I'm talking about. Is that a problem?
Yeah. No. Okay, I didn't think about you know what? Sometimes I see videos and I never think about how they were filmed. And I literally saw
Yeah.
your video and didn't think about like Tom's doing that with one hand and driving. Wait, how did you do that? Did you just because you left? Oh, you did it in first.
Second.
Did you leave the line
See-
in second?
Yeah, my car's got a 2.4 liter, so it actually has some power. And it also has torque, so I can leave it in second and I can just pull away.
Yeah. Okay. See, these are things I didn't think about when watching the video. Is literally because like I just see it and I imagine being in the driver's seat and then I move on to the next video. I didn't think about like how you actually created the content.
Well, it's yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot of us do that when we get the chance. Like if you have a fun car and it's raining or something and you're in a safe spot. I bet a lot of people do it when they're not in a safe spot too. But I'm like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I can do this a little bit. It's fun.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
but guys, don't be like me.
Tom being a bad influence.
I've noticed this a lot actually with content stuff. Like the best content is usually the stuff that's either taboo or bad. So, like bad driving, doing something like that, clowning around, you know.
What are you classifying as like the best content?
The stuff that's going to get a lot of engagement and interest and like or makes the best joke or
Yeah.
is the most entertaining or like any of that stuff. I have so many ideas, dude, when I'm driving the endurance racing stints. Basically, my head is just full of like, oh, I could make a reel out of that. I could make a reel out of that.
No
And it's just
way.
watching other people like having these
Oh.
like chaotic moments, you
Yeah.
know?
We still have to.
And then I'm like, well, that seems like I'm making fun of them. Go
Tom,
ahead.
I want to do a live stream where like we just play a game on Twitch. And remember that car game that Kevin Zoo was playing? That like survival car game where the car's
Oh,
always
yeah.
breaking? I feel like we would have some pretty gold content from just us playing a game where the car is constantly breaking.
We gotta have another game night soon.
Yeah, definitely. We have to do another game night soon. Actually, Tom, you know what? We're canceling the podcast. We're doing a game night right now. Is everyone ready?
All right.
We're gonna play Among Us.
Yeah. Love your hair. Hope you win. Oh, no, screw that game.
I think we're playing Among Us. You know how we play like Mario Kart and stuff, and at work on Monday.
Yeah.
On Thursday, they're doing like a Thanksgiving like lunch thing, and it's for the whole factory, so like all 400 and something people. And I was walking around the office trying to get people to play Among Us on Thursday, and I think we're actually going to have enough people to play Among Us.
But why would you want to do that? That's my question.
Because Tom, I'm a personality hire, and that's me pulling my weight around the office.
Personality hire. Is that on your resume?
You know, I should put it on my
Mediocre,
resume.
mediocre Microsoft Office skills, reasonable work ethic, great personality.
Personality hire written all over it.
Yeah. What did you do this weekend, dude? I didn't do anything.
You literally did nothing.
I didn't do nothing. I didn't do motorsports oriented anything. I didn't put a helmet on my head.
The most
I didn't do anything
motorsports
interesting.
the most motorsports oriented thing that I did was I went to a fellow autocrosser's wedding, Ben Ben Edmonston got married, and I drove his
Mhm.
car in 2019. It was a C7 Grand Sport and SSR when that was a class in autocross, basically like stock Corvette and Hoosiers. And then I drove his BMW M2, which is like all modified coilover stuff like that, also on Hoosiers last year for an event. And he was getting married, and for some reason he got married in Nebraska, and I wasn't gonna miss Ben's wedding, so and tickets were a little too expensive, but like it's like 12 hours away, like it's a decent drive, right?
Long drive.
So yeah, we left on Friday. We got just west of Chicago before I started getting sleepy, so we got a hotel. Me and Christine went, and yeah, and then we finished out the drive. We missed the actual wedding because there was literally no logistical way I could do it unless I took vacation time. And if you've been listening to the podcast, you know DJ's out of vacation time. Um, so I missed the wedding part, which like is fine. It was a big religious thing, and that's always I always find that a little weird. So it was fine missing that, um, and then made it for the reception. And me and Christine, we went to the reception. There's a bunch of autocrossers there. Um, we didn't talk about autocross too much. I know that because I don't remember looking over and seeing Christine bored out of her mind.
That's a good sign.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, hung out with some autocross people. Some of them possibly for the last time of the year. I think we're trying to go karting at some point, but yeah, it was nice seeing everyone. I hung out with Ito and his wife, which was really nice for basically the whole time I was there. And
Awesome.
yeah, and then Sunday we woke up and we drove back. And Ito said that he hated hanging out with me. Wow. Way to find out while you're recording a podcast. Dang.
You guys just break up? Damn.
I talked Ito into buying a monitor for a sim rig, and then today I got a screenshot of him purchasing the monitor. So we're firing back up sim racing Ito. I'm such a bad
we go.
influence.
Dude, should we announce our iRacing news?
Oh yes,
Speaking of sim racing,
obviously, yeah. Details. Okay. When were we gonna do it? Hold on, maybe we should get the details together.
I got it, guys. We're gonna do a sim race. We're gonna do our first ever Lizard Brain sim race.
It's an
gonna be
event.
an iRacing.
We're hosting an event.
An event.
Yep. We're using iRacing to host the event. It's going to be on
January 4th.
January 4th.
2025.
I think like obviously we'll make a post, but it's going to be a 4-hour endurance race with GT4 cars, and we're going to have prizes. And the prizes are freaking cool. It's
it's going to be streamed by Kyle Heyer.
Yep, Kyle Heyer.
Commentated by Kyle and I.
Ito's in Mexico. Dang it.
We'll have to do another one.
Ivan, the weather will be randomized, so it might be raining the whole time. It might not be. You'll just have to show up and see what the weather is. But first place, assuming you have a teammate, will be a complete set of brake pads for both you and your teammate. So total 4 axle sets. Second will be 2 axle sets of brake pads. Third will be 1 axle set of brake pads, brought to you by Hawk Performance. I might know a guy that works there. And did you confirm the random prize pool yet? Okay, we might have like a really super awesome prize for a random user that might be affiliated with Tom. You guys can guess what that is. And so
a wild guess.
All right, one of my favorite prizes is a random finishing position will be a guest on the podcast, and that random finishing position will be announced right before the race starts. So after quali, right before the race starts. So that might be some shenanigans going on to get like 14th place or whatever, but we will absolutely for sure you and your teammate will be a guest on the podcast. We'll go over your journey. We'll ask you about talent versus effort. You're just going to be a full-fledged guest. We're going to, even if nobody's ever heard of you, you're going to be a celebrity.
Exactly. So yeah, we'll have like entry details because it's not just going to be like a join randomly thing. You'll have to tell us you're going to do it, but you can have teams or do it by yourself. 4-hour endurance race at Road Atlanta and GT4 cars using iRacing with a stream and prizes on January 4th, 2025. I'm so excited. I haven't done anything to sim racing since like February.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, and I'm excited that we were able to get Kyle Heyer because a broadcast wouldn't be the same unless Kyle was doing it. So, and then Tom, I'm assuming you're the co-commentator,
Yep. And who
then
knows? Maybe we'll bring in other people too. I don't know.
yeah, it's 4-hour race, so you can have a lot of chat and stuff, and I'm sure I'll be able to jump in the booth when I'm not driving the car, and hopefully the whoever my teammate ends up being, which we joked around about maybe being a subscriber.
Or like auctioning you off.
Yeah, or auction off the drive with DJ seat. But something that we were talking about, and we still have to figure out what date it would fall on. But we would do like a group coaching, me and Tom, for the subscribers of the podcast. So if you're participating in the race and you're a subscriber of the podcast, we would give you the information to join a special channel in Discord, and we will try to pick off low hanging fruit with like a hour or 2-hour session, and just kind of try to get to everyone that would be a part of that group coaching thing. So then you
Yeah,
get to
and
have
we'll
your strongest race possible.
and we'll definitely do some more sim racing stuff through Lizard Brains. But this will be like our first event, so that's exciting.
Yeah, and we plan on kind of just continually doing these as we find like nice weekends to hold events on.
Yeah.
What track did we decide? Road Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
The Lizard Brains best track.
Lizard Brain's best track. We'll do second best track once iRacing scans it and puts NCM in the
Yeah, right.
roster. So,
Or maybe we'll have to switch things up and actually learn how to host on Assetto Corsa, so we can actually host a server on NCM, that nice one.
I don't know how. I don't think you can do like an endurance race on Assetto Corsa.
No, but we have friends who know how to do Assetto Corsa.
We could do
stuff.
like
They can help us.
we could do something like that. We could do like because like NCM isn't the best track to do a race on, but we could do like we could set up a server and have like a leaderboard of times and stuff like that. We could absolutely do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remembered. Well, was there anything else from the wedding this weekend? I derailed you because of sim racing.
Oh, no. So I think one lap has ruined me for long road trips because normally I would never speed, but like you totally see how much time you can save if you're going like 85 the whole time.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
You cut like
and
an
not stopping.
hour. Yeah, you cut like an hour out of the trip. Oh, Christine's got some work to do when it comes to shortening up the pit stops. Peter Lear, my co-driver for one lap, he would be pretty upset at Christine.
I hope you didn't just get yourself in trouble.
And she just got home, so she heard all of that.
Oh, lovely. Wait, was there any other issues on the road? I heard. I want to poke the bear.
Like trucks driving next to each other for an unnecessary amount of time.
Yeah, it's your turn to get in trouble.
I would never bring that up on the podcast, Tom.
No, don't do this to me. No.
I'm not touching that. Sam D asked in the chat, are you considering a radar detector now? I kind of am, because one lap mixed with like Waze or Google, and then you have a radar detector. During one lap, there was never a situation where like there was a cop on the side of the road where we ever were like, oh crap, we didn't see him coming up. So sometimes they're not on Waze, and then but the radar detector like chiming always gives you an indication that something's nearby. So,
and certain states are worse than others about that. Like Ohio's terrible about that. I think Kansas is pretty bad about cops sitting there. But like if you go through, I feel like I've never seen a cop just sitting in Illinois. You know
maybe I haven't either. And like when I drove to work today, I was still like literally the speed limit or whatever. I'm just talking like long road trips where it's like a wide open road and nobody's around, right? So
somewhere to be.
I don't want people listening to this be like weaving in and out of traffic, and they're like, I'm gonna save 5 minutes on my commute. It's like, no, like it's like we're talking like you're going through tanks of gas to get somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the only notable thing I did this weekend was go to Cincinnati and visit my parents. And when I was there, I worked on my car, which sucked every freaking moment of it. I've replaced my brakes and I hated it. And I found new ways to both hurt myself doing that job. I've done that before. I've done brakes before so many times, and I still found new ways to struggle and a new way to hurt myself by pinning my hand with like the rotor. And I have a wound now on my thumb
Aw.
because of that stupid brake
Tom
job.
has a little boo boo for the
I know
people
it,
that are
dude. It's
not
deep.
watching the video. That did not look
It
like a
kind of
deep
hurt.
boo boo. I'm sure it hurt. You pinched your skin, right?
No, it went like deep in.
Oh,
It
like
went
you
down
got
in.
punctured.
I like I don't like hand injuries. I don't want to describe it. I hurt myself.
Okay, fair.
I don't you only get two hands. I don't like hand injuries. They freak me
Yeah,
out.
well, hand
Uh
injuries particularly suck because you kind of use your hands a lot, and then if they're injured, you keep getting like you keep irritating the injury.
exactly. So yeah, I hated doing that, but now my car has brakes. So I had this weird thing where only the outside left front pad was burned, and it had like melted the road, like worn the rotor down a bunch, but all the other three were fine on the front.
So wait,
So I just replaced all four.
the rotor was wore down, but the pad was fine, or
No, the pad was gone, but only on the left front outside. Is that how you describe a brake pad where it goes?
yeah, no, that makes sense. Makes sense to
Okay,
me.
on the outside left front, the outside of the rotor was worn way down, and that pad was basically down to the backing plate, but the inside pad was fine,
That's weird. Are the
and
the
the car
pistons are
drives
on the
normal.
outside though, right? No, they're on the inside. The pistons are on the inside. Well, that doesn't
I
make
don't
any sense
remember.
at all. Yeah, no, the piston would be on the inside, and then
I
I've
don't know.
been
I'm gonna keep an eye on it because if one of them stuck, I've heard that that's kind of a problem with these cars
yeah,
that
but
they can get a.
it would be both of them then.
Todd Cayley asked if I greased my caliper pins. What do you think, Todd? I've never heard of that before. What do you
Oh
greasing a
no,
caliper pin? What is that?
that's that's what those grease tubes are for, dude. Sometimes people, some
What?
sometimes people will just take that grease and they'll just like shove it all over the back of the brake pad, and it's like, sure, I guess you can do that, like to protect the back of the brake pad from the piston and like abrasion or whatever. But like that grease is mostly for like the pins, like because it's a sliding caliper. You got pistons on one side, and then you have the thing that hooks over, right? That how that thing that hangs over moves into the like with the rest of the caliper. Do you know what I'm talking about, Tom?
You kind of lost me with that description. I've just never heard of grease on a brake pad before, ever. Maybe I think my education through the lens of motorsports has skewed my understanding of cars
Oh,
like to an
absolutely.
even worse place.
Same.
Because like I didn't know what else was the other thing I didn't know what it was. There was some other thing that's only on streak. Oh, because of the caliper. Shoot, the piston
The dust boots.
dust boot was like crumbling because it had clearly overheated.
Yep.
I never knew what that was. I'd never seen that before or knew what it
That's fine.
was. So
I wouldn't worry
I
about
had to
that.
message everybody like, "Is my brakes falling apart?"
No, you were fine. It's good.
Yeah,
I remember
guys, working on cars is terrible.
on the race car, I did like a rebuild on the Stop Tech kit that was on the race car, and the dust boots were like all like melted and destroyed. And I'm like, oh, it's a good thing I did the rebuild on this. And then literally after the first session, they were melted and destroyed again. So I was like, okay, well, it must be fine. So because there's no protecting the dust boot. Look at Richard Swecky posting a freaking diagram. All right, are you an expert yet, Tom?
The good news is I can follow that diagram. The bad news is I still have never heard of greasing the part that's labeled to grease.
Hmm.
Never heard of that before. Anyway, that was the only thing I really did. Hurt myself working on a stupid ass car. Oh, then I also pulled the bumper off where I got hit, and I didn't get any damage inside the bumper. So it's just the bumper. Good news.
Okay, that is very good news. Literally nothing was bent inside there.
No, it just missed the crash beam.
Were you
Just
able to
missed
just
the
like
crash beam.
were you able to just like poof the bumper out?
No, it was way too like we tried to like hammer it a little bit, or we were gonna try heating it up, but I don't care. Like I'm just gonna
It's plastic,
I'm gonna
right?
get a payout and fix it. Yeah, but it's pretty thick.
Okay. All right.
That's all. I'm just gonna look a little scary.
That's fine.
People are gonna be like, "Oh, that guy's got a dent on his car. Stay away from him."
Oh yeah. Seriously, anytime I see a car that's all beat up, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna leave that person a little extra room.
Yeah. As I'm like cruise controlling on a mission through through wherever I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is an advantage.
You see a car that's damaged on every single side and corner of it, you're like, that person just runs into stuff.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah. So we had a question last week that prompted kind of a topic that we were going to talk about today.
yeah.
And I think the question was from Matt Busby, who's a past guest on the podcast. And he asked, what defines a good race organization versus a bad race organization? This is his words, not ours. What are the things you look for in successful events? And I think that's a really good question. I specifically like the what makes a good race org slash event. I don't know that we need to like say what bad events are, but
I
what
think
are
so.
what are some things that make events good? You want to start?
Well, no, I was gonna ask a question because you sent me like your notes on this, and your top bullet point was think like a lizard. What do you mean
Yeah.
by that?
All right. So my first note, I think the best events, the best organizations have people in them that can't help but think the way that you and I think. We're going to lizard it
Like a
out. We're going to game
competitor.
the system.
Yep.
We're going to find the loopholes. We're going to game the system and compete. And I think that the best organizations understand that, and they put people who think the same way in positions of leadership to think like the people that they're in charge of now, and then design the system that they are as fair and even as possible in all aspects, whether you're thinking about it and how to treat the people, whether you're thinking it in how to design the rules, whether you're thinking of it and how to format whatever's going on. If you have people that are making decisions who think like us, I don't want to say that sounded bad, but whatever. They think like a lizard. They're ahead of the problems that can be
Yep.
created when other lizards come in and stir up the pot because we can't help ourselves. And the best part about this is it doesn't affect like 90% of the people because 90% of the people aren't lizards. And it's never going to affect them and they're not going to have one way or the other. Because I've had these organizations sometimes explain before that they don't want um actually I'll cite a specific one. I was at Speedring. Do you remember Speedring?
Yeah. Whatever happened to that?
I think it was put on by it was organized by GridLife, but it was like the GridLife staff, but it was sponsored by Motovicity, and I think that company went
Oh, I
bankrupt.
think they did go under. Dude, it was like the moment I was getting good enough at driving where like maybe speed ring would like be kind of like a cool thing to do. It like stopped happening.
Yeah, I still think it like that event was so cool, and that track was perfect for it. That little M1 concourse up in Detroit,
Yeah,
pretty fun,
I've never been
and
on
it's
it,
like
but it was like I think it was like turn 1 or the final turn where you would kind of like dip in. I think it was the final turn because you would have like the pit in and you would use that on entry.
yep,
Yep. I remember watching
and
videos of
exit.
it.
It was really fun. Anyway, so we're at Speedring, and I was talking to Adam Jabay, and I was the only one. There's a section of the track that you can open up the entry of the corner by going almost completely off the track limits into an access road that is like a short course cut through or something, and then you open up the entry of this left hander by an entire car width. And since I'm a lizard, I can't help myself. I'm going to take all of that, other than the one little shred of sidewall that I'm going to leave on the track, so I'm not breaking track limits rules. And Adam came up to me and he's like, "People are complaining that you're doing that. Can you stop?" I was like, "No."
That's not how that works.
Yeah, and he's like, "Well," and I said, "Is it against the rules?" And he's like, "No, but just like you're already winning, back it down. Like you don't need to be doing that." I'm like, "No, I'm not going to do that." So if you that's the lizard mentality. That's a perfect example of that. Like there are people who are going to do that anyway, whether you realize it or not. So getting people who think that way in positions of decision making power is really really productive and makes good events. I think.
Yeah, I'm
That makes
thinking of
sense.
like yeah, no, I totally get it. I'm thinking of like some like rental cart like endurance races I've been to or maybe even maybe it wasn't an endurance race, maybe it was like almost like a relay race or stuff like that where it's like
Hmm.
where they have really good intentions but they're not being lizards about it. So there's a lot of like vagueness and like what's allowed, what's not allowed. Like give me the box where I can compete in and then like now let the competition start. But if it's like a moving goalpost and like what's allowed, what's not allowed, can we get away with that? Like what's the penalty for this? Is it actually a sufficient penalty or is it like worth just taking the penalty or because like when you're competing, you're trying to think of like all these different ways that you can get away with stuff and do stuff. I think one of the best ran karting things I ever went to. I don't remember if I had we had the podcast, and did I ever talk about the 12-hour electric go-kart race I did?
I don't think so.
So it was in
Where was it?
Canton, Ohio. I think it was a K1 speed, and they have these carts, and they're actually pretty legit, and they can go about maybe 20, 30 minutes, so like on a charge, like kind of set in like consistent lap times. And there was a very specific way where you drove it where it was only like a tenth slower, but you'd get like a lot more life out of it. And there was good carts and bad carts. Some carts were really fast, but they would like burn out quickly, so then you'd have to swap your cart. Some carts were like moderately okay, but they could like go forever, like on the battery. And basically, the rules were laid out for us, and we had software to monitor the carts that we were in and everyone else's carts. So what actually ended up happening during the 12-hour race is we were taking notes on the performance of each of these carts in relationship to the performance of like those particular drivers on that team. And we would notice like what the fast carts are. We would look at the queue of carts, the grab index. And if we were in like a fast cart, but it was like a quick burn, then we would be like, okay, we need to pit when this cart comes up so we can get into that next cart. And then like that would be like the best optimal cart. So it turned into a little competition of not just the driving, but like the trying to figure out the optimal strategy for the strong carts. And all of us that it was the local track to me is called High Voltage Indoor Karting. So this was a team put together by the owner of High Voltage Indoor Karting. So it was me, him, and then the fastest person that worked there, whose dad is Jay Andrews, the guy who runs NASA Great Lakes. So his son's really fast in a kart. His name is Jake. So it was me, Jake, and Steve, the owner of High Voltage, and it like Steve was like the data cruncher, and me and Jake were like the ones getting our hands bloody, literally, and it, it was such a fun event, but we were at a disadvantage because we weren't the locals. They already knew what all the good carts were. We had to figure it out on the fly. We lost in the last 3 minutes. It was so close.
Oh,
the whole venue actually like went against us, and they were actually like actively sabotaging our race. So one of the local teams would win. But the format of the competition besides that was perfect because it gave us full reign to use all the information that we absolutely could, and all the rules were laid out very specifically. They've already thought about the things that people would be doing to gain an advantage that like maybe other people necessarily wouldn't be able to do, and talked about it. They had clear rules for like over aggressive contact and like literally what the guidelines were. Like there was still some gray area, but it was so much better than any other like rental cart thing that I went to. And that added to the enjoyment so much because it felt like we were in control of our own destiny of what happened in that 12-hour race.
yeah, that's cool. That's a perfect example of a bad event organizer. If they're just like blatantly favoriting
Well, no, it's not
certain
some
teams or people.
Yeah, they weren't favoriting it. It's like when it's literally all other 9 teams against this one team that was leading.
Oh, the other competitors were doing stuff.
Exactly. They were like
Got it.
like it would be obvious where they like, okay, come on, just let like because it's an indoor go-kart track, so like passing is really tight. But they would like intentionally be blocking. They would get a blue flag, and then they would get out of the way, right? Or they would be penalized. But then the next team would do it, and then the next team, and then the next team. So like our lead was like deteriorating because everyone was in cahoots to not let the rival karting place team win the thing.
Yeah, that's still annoying though. I guess I get it, but it's a little bit how driving with Rockwell feels in Champ Car.
A little bit, yeah, probably. You probably get that.
Yeah. So my like think like a lizard was under the idea of like I think good event organizers, good events have good foresight and good like action plans, so they can think like what are the people going to want? Where is this going to go? How are the lizards going to treat this? You know, I'm trying to think of an example from like a track day maybe, but there were certain little like norms and things that if I came into track night, for example, in 2015, and I went to New Jersey Motorsports Park for the first time, obviously I'm not the first person to ever go there, and I'm not the first person to ever put on an event there. So part of my job was like learn what the expectations of the local region people, like local community is, and then like have the foresight to deal with the problems that they can cause because of their little local, all of those things with like foresight and then like quick action plans on common sense items. All of that like makes a really good org, I think.
Yeah.
What's your like favorite thing that a good event has?
So I'm thinking of it like
I have a
like
bet for what your
carding.
first one is.
Well, I have it as like think about carding stuff or like a Tracto org or like just any kind of competition thing. Um, just clear communication and a clear point of access for additional information where it's not a mystery who you reach out to. There's like a single point, like, hey, if you have a question, you like go to this person or you go to this area and there'll be somebody there. Maybe they don't know the answer for you, but like at least they'll be able to get the person that would know the answer to that thing. Because if you're ever, especially when you're new somewhere, you might not have the information that like the veterans of like that series group or organization have. But if you're able to quickly gather whatever information you feel like you're missing, then that just makes for like just a much better time overall. What did you think I was
Totally.
gonna say?
Competition level.
Oh, well,
I thought the
okay.
first thing you were going to say is like, as a driver, I want the highest level competition.
I'm
Put me
thinking
there.
of stuff that the org can. Well, the org does have like some sort of some control over that, like based on just like how they're advertising or uh you know competition brings more competition, right? So if
Yeah.
you're
Yeah. Yeah.
actively trying to get competition to show up, that's going to bring more competition. Then yeah, I get that, but I'm thinking of it more of like an event space, not like like a
Yeah.
race series to participate in.
That's a really good point because when you think about it from like the simplest level, event organizers, motorsports events, they're in the job of customer service
Yeah,
and
really, they
to an
are.
extent event operation, but it's basically a customer service thing. They're customer service providers for motorsports. So like I only have ever worked other than as a driver or coach, I've only ever worked customer service jobs or track days, which are like the same thing. And having somebody who welcomes you and then doesn't make you feel stupid and helps you through the process as quickly and simply as possible is really hard to find at racetracks actually, and really really important. Like when you go to check in and the person just stares at you like, do you know what you're doing?
Like what?
That's not good.
You've never
Like,
been here before, like they're not
yeah,
saying that, but you can see it in their eyes. They're like, oh my god, this person's so lost. Like
or it's
you're,
an yeah,
yeah, like you're
it's
annoying them.
it's an inconvenience to them that you're there. Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
um so yeah, I think having that, like, I remember my first job was at an ice cream parlor. We have an episode actually if you want to know all the jobs we've ever had. It's like one of the first 10 episodes we talked about the jobs we've had and how they formed us, which was really fun to talk about. But my first job was an ice cream parlor. And there was a rule that like when someone comes in the door, if you're not doing anything, you call out to them from across the room,
Hey, you.
like welcome to graders, which gives them a welcome and a point to like go to. And we did that at the go-kart track too, because the lobby, remember how big the lobby was?
Yep.
They would walk in and they like don't know where to go, and there's
Yeah,
go-karts
yeah,
over
yeah, yeah.
here, and then they like, what do I do? The customer service brain goes, hi, welcome to Full Throttle Indoor Karting. That tells them where they go, what they need to do next, and also that there's like somebody to help them.
I like that. I like that a lot.
So like if you're working registration at an autocross event, like you can adapt that super easy.
Yeah, because you know it, you see it. You see somebody like looking around, like, where do I go?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I like
For
that,
sure.
dude. I like that a lot because first off, it's like instantly friendly and welcoming, and it gives like some sense of direction because there's a lot of anxiety with doing new stuff, and when somebody's new, a lot of that anxiety can be alleviated by just being a friendly face, and then also
For
giving
sure.
them the option, like completely guilt free, like let me know if you have any more questions, because now you could be that point of information, like
Yep.
willingly, like hey, like come find me. Oh, I'm paddocked over here or whatever. Like if you're helping run the event and you're also like participating in it, like yeah, that totally works.
Yeah. Which honestly kind of ties into my next one that's like a big one for me, which is drivers meetings. I'm like a drivers meeting hawk. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's because I worked them for so long and had to give them enough. But oh
If
shoot, I
hold
just
on,
lost how it connected. Go ahead.
maybe you'll come back to it. If you're ever giving a driver's meeting, not to make you nervous, future driving meeting givers. And Tom's in the audience. You are being judged.
You're literally giving a presentation, and I'm your classroom teacher, going to give you a
A,
like a full
a grade card.
what do they call it at college when you get to the end?
Dissertation.
Mm, thesis?
Oh, a thesis. That's not.
Yeah, you're get what do they call it when you get to the end and you have to do like the big thing?
Well, Ito said lecture in the chat, but I don't think that's what you're going for.
Yeah, like a thesis. You're giving a thesis, and
I
I'm
don't-
grading it for
is
your
that what a
final grade.
thesis
If
is?
I'm in your, I
You can
think
tell
so.
Tom
didn't
and
go
I
to
didn't go to
college, though.
college. Hold on. What is a thesis? Academic essay. You gonna do an academic essay on their driver's meeting?
No, they're giving. This is their project, and they're giving the project to the class, and I'm the teacher in the back grading it.
So I don't think this is
Get it?
lining up. Hold on. What's a
Okay, fine.
dissertation? What is
I don't
a
know. I didn't go to college.
Somebody in here went to college. A dissertation is a
point makes sense,
lengthy
right?
research paper that is usually the final step in earning an academic degree.
There you go. That's what I'm looking for.
I think dissertation is the one.
So when I started adding at my driver's meetings, if I can do anything to make your day better, please let me know while you're here before you leave. Because if I find out about it tomorrow or some other day, I can't do anything about it other than try to do a better job next time. But if you tell me you have a problem while you're here and you walk up to me and you tell me this is a problem, I can probably fix it. So when I started adding that little thing at the end of all my driver's meetings, I basically stopped having problems after events. I stopped hearing about people were upset about this, that, or the other. It's like all you have to do is just plant the seed. Like, hey, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
You tell me if you're having a problem, and then I can fix it.
Yep.
Or I can tell you, or I can tell you it's not a problem that needs to be fixed.
Or maybe you're the problem.
Can I throw Matt Waldbaum under the bus for a second?
Oh, absolutely.
Did I tell the story of him? Did I tell the story of him asking for the checkered flags to be changed at Pitt?
What? Okay, hold on. I
Okay,
need
so
to understand.
At Pitt during our track day, they do the checkered flags simultaneously at 1, turn 7, and turn 12. So it comes out in 3 different places at the same time. And if you, like, wherever you are, you get the checkered, you come in because the track is so long. So I guess Matt had some sort of confusion with the checkered flag because he was racing really hard with somebody else. And then he, like, was a little too in the zone when the checkered was already out. So he had to, like, bail off the track and, I don't know, not hit somebody because they were going slow and he didn't know it was after the checkered. So he messages me after. I'm working grid, but he messages me after. He's like, "Hey, can we change these checkered flag rules? This is it's kind of dangerous." And at that event, I was like, "Okay." So we called the group the GLTC Try Hard group or the Wheel to Wheel Try Hard group. So I'm like, "So you were trying too hard in the Try Hard group? You try hard?" He's like, "Mm."
What do you mean it's kind of dangerous? What was his viewpoint on
Basically,
it? I think I missed that part.
the checkered flag came out in the middle of the lap. He missed it because it was in the middle of the lap, not at the beginning of the lap. So he was focused on other things. He missed the checkered flag and had like a dramatic moment because of it. So he was asking to just make it normal instead of have the checkered come out in the middle of the lap. Totally see his point. I completely agree. But that's the norm for the track, and it makes things more efficient. So from my organizer's
where was the checkered
perspective,
thrown?
that's a him problem. Turn 12
Which one is that?
after the S's.
After the S's. So like before you turn right and go back up the hill. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry to throw you under the bus, Matt, but it was a funny example of like,
That's kind of
no, I'm not going to change it
that corner
because you're
station.
just,
That corner station is kind of like off to the side as well.
it's weird. Yeah.
I
It's
was
like straight ahead while you're braking. So you have to be thinking to look up and straight ahead instead of into the corner.
I was trying to think
Kind of
about
a bad flagger spot.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like the best flagger spot for somebody to throw the checker on pit race, and there really isn't like that great of a spot.
I think the inside of 14 would be better than the outside of 12 because you're at least looking into the corner that way.
Yeah.
So when you come over come over on the back straight.
There's a lot going on there though, so I could see somebody missing it just based on bandwidth.
Yeah. Anyway, back to drivers meetings, right? What was I going to go with drivers meetings? Maybe not back to drivers meetings.
Drivers
Oh,
meetings is over.
that I'm grading your drivers meetings. Yeah, because I think that drivers meetings are basically the defining like the thing that sets the tone for the day.
Yeah.
or the race or the whatever it is.
The
So that's like
attitude.
the most critical thing that happens outside of whatever happens on the racetrack. And to me, there are like a couple of like cardinal sins for a driver's meeting. The first one is if you don't have a notes or a plan or like a rundown or an outline of what you're going to talk about and you're just up there fumbling through it. Oh my God. Like how is it possible that you've gotten yourself to this professional point that you're giving a driver's meeting at any event anywhere and you don't have like an outline of what you want to talk about or in your head what you're going to talk about and then just like get through it.
You know,
I don't get it. I used to stand in front of drivers meetings and look at my phone and read my phone until I had that thing in my head. But like I'm not wasting people's time rambling.
pu-
I know what I'm going to say.
sometimes people when they're nervous they ramble, so it's like a public speaking like
Then write it down and look at your phone. I don't know.
just stare
It's
at
just
it.
like I
We
don't understand like you're in charge of this thing that is not only expensive and high access and dangerous and special. Like this is not a it's not a joke really. Like a driver's meeting should be serious and important. And if you don't know what you're saying, then why are you giving the driver's meeting? Let someone else do it.
uh
Is that
I
too harsh?
one time I was in a driver's meeting and cuz this organization ran 30-minute sessions, and so a common issue they have is like people run out of gas cuz
Oh,
you burn through way too much gas than you think you would. And uh they they would make you, after they put gas back in your car, they would make you drive around the paddock with like a Sunoco flag if you ran out of gas. So everyone in the paddock knows that you ran out of gas
that's really funny.
and they had to come rescue you. I was like, that's actually a good, like, lighthearted, clever way to make people think about this thing. But I guarantee if they didn't call it out in the driver's meeting, they would I'm not sure if anybody ran out of gas. I wasn't really paying attention to the operations. But them just saying something makes it way less likely that people run out of gas.
Totally. I used to have that in my driver's meeting for the novices only because novices most likely have never been through that much gas in their life.
Yeah.
The first time you go on a racetrack, especially if you're in like a V8 or something.
Yep, yep.
Excuse me. So yeah, in my like novice only driver's meeting, I would say there was like a rundown of a couple little things to help at the end, and one of
Mhm.
them was like keep an eye on your on your gas gauge. But that's another good point. The driver's meeting should be tailored to who you're talking to.
Yes.
If the driver's meeting, like if you're doing a driver's meeting, for example, at an autocross event, and you have to talk about what the down and out rule is, what are we doing? That's for the novice meeting, or that's for like like no, that
Yes.
needs to be
Oh,
like
dude.
move it along, move it along, move it
Totally.
along. If you're going through flags at a track day with an advanced group, what are you doing? They know what the yellow flag is. They like tell them the anomalies, and then just say like this is going to be normal.
Like, yeah, tell
Move
them
along.
the stuff that's track specific. Where's grid? Like, how are we entering track? When are we getting off the track? Is the checker at a different place? Say something about that, and then
Yep,
like that's like it's maybe set some expectations, and that's about it.
totally.
Yeah.
Um, Another cardinal sin. Sorry, this is just becoming a driver's meeting rant, but if more than one person speaks, especially unplanned, terrible, bad news. That's immediately you lost half the audience's attention. You're losing information clarity. That person half the time doesn't even have the authority to speak, and they just think they do, and they talk anyway. Especially in volunteer programs, like the drivers' meeting should be one person, and if it's going to be more than one, plan that other person to be talking like before. Don't just like oh, and start talking, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
like
and
it's
then I'm
like,
gonna tell
oh,
you to
and
start talking at this
yeah,
point.
and then so and so is going to talk about this, and then like they're introduced. That's like a like a fine way for two people to talk. But if it's like going back and forth and it's up to the crowd to like follow along, then like yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah, mess. Um, I'm trying to think. There was one other thing about a driver's meeting that I feel. You can always tell a lot from the crowd in a driver's meeting. Um, a lot of times you'll
Explain.
catch um, if you watch the crowd while the driver's meeting's happening. There's a couple things that always happen. The people who are closest to the organizers talk, and the people who usually are the most regular, like the regulars, also talk. And to me, like talking during a driver's meeting is a, a sign of a very bad driver's meeting because it means that basically everybody understands that this is not for a purpose. And the more people are talking, the worse the symptom is. But if you like, I remember sitting in a driver's meeting once and it was
So
a club racing series. And like the top 10 regulars, let's say, 7 of them were just like talking to each other during the drivers meeting in a way that was distracting to the people around them, but also just obviously means that they don't respect the person talking, which was the event organizer, which is like you should be respecting when they're speaking that they're giving you useful information.
So if you're the one giving the drivers meeting, like how do you make sure people are not talking during the drivers meeting? I feel like that's like such a like
High school.
yeah, but like what do you do? Do you get everyone to like hold one finger up until like everyone's quiet and then you like keep talking like it's grade school? Like I don't
I
see that
think
happening. I think that the drivers meeting has to be snappy and informative enough where people aren't getting their dopamine from like their buddy next to them.
exactly. So you do a good job of all the other things we've talked about by making the information pointed, clear, specific to what's happening for that day. Like all of those things, if you just get through that and you do it effectively, people aren't going to be talking. They're going to be listening to the information that they need. So usually that's a symptom of a bad driver's meeting, not like it's not a common it's not what makes the driver's meeting bad. The driver's meeting was already bad if you have a bunch of people talking.
You know what I've never seen in any
But
organization I've went to is where they start off with like the most general information. This is something that everyone needs to know. And then it goes like I'm thinking like purely like HPDE like tractor organization. And then you say everything that everyone needs to know and then but like after that the advanced drivers can leave and then you can dismiss like all advanced drivers. Oh, go get ready for your session. And then you talk about some stuff that might include the intermediate and novice, and then at some point you dismiss the intermediate, and then now it's just a novice, and now it's just a novice drivers meeting. I've never seen that before, but that like if you formatted your drivers meeting and your talking points in a way where you could have it quick and snappy for the people that would get bored easily, and then the novices, like most of the time you'll notice that like people who are Doug Tab says that Brock does that for one lap. That's cool. I
One
didn't
Lap also does that, and Auto Interest also does that.
do they? Okay. I was always an instructor at auto interest events, so I think I was just there for the whole meeting anyways. Um did they do that? I don't remember that at all.
So you remember that at Auto Interest, this is our one of our local track day groups that we love. Um, they play the video where Chrissy like talks through the flags, and everyone has to be there for that. I disagree with that, but whatever. And then at the end of that, he'll say, "Okay, advanced group off here, intermediate group go off here, novice group stay here."
Oh,
And then
yeah,
they
yeah,
each
yeah,
have
yeah.
like a specific meeting.
Yep. Yeah, I like that. Specific
And then at
meeting.
track night, we had actually the novices had 3 drivers meetings throughout the first like hour and a half of the day, but it was a trickle of information that was relevant the longer the day went on. So it wasn't like a fire hose of a half-hour meeting. And then there was a 5-minute drivers meeting for advanced intermediate, where I think a lot of you have probably seen me do that drivers meeting.
Yeah. I my very first time on a racetrack, Tom did that drivers meeting to me.
Yep.
I didn't know it was Tom at that point, and Tom obviously didn't know me, but years later I was like, "Do you remember an S2000 crashing?"
I do remember texting somebody, maybe Hayward or something, like, "I had an incident tonight. The driver went back out with damage on their car and finished the night. It was awesome." About you.
Yeah. Because I mean I paid for that track time. I was getting it.
Right.
Even if my headlights are shooting off into outer space.
So yeah, that's my Tom rant on drivers meetings. I think a good event has a good drivers meeting. And also, if your event doesn't have a drivers meeting, you're doing it wrong. There's got to be something to put in a drivers meeting. Do you
Ye
know they do the runoffs without a drivers meeting?
That's kinda wild.
The pinnacle club race of the year, they don't even do a drivers meeting with the class all in one place.
Yeah,
Crazy
at
to me.
least with the class, right? Like get the class together before the race happens and talk about expectations and have some camaraderie like before you're in the race cars and have your helmets on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh one thing I like uh that the SCCA like time trials program does, which is basically like a track day with transponders, is they have meetings after each session with like all the drivers that were in that group. So if somebody is causing issues or something or whatever, you you get a chance to like talk it out. You talk about like if there are issues, it gives you a forum to like talk about them. And it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily have to be like mediated through like the staff. It can just be like, "Hey, do you want me to just start in front of you because you're like coming up to pace a little slower and it's kind of impeding both of our laps?" Like just like some kind of communication, like you have an avenue to do that.
And a built-in corral to like high five people.
Yeah.
That's also fun.
Well, yeah, like because a lot of times in paddocks you'll be like, okay, my session's over, and then you paddock somewhere, and the paddock's huge, and there's a couple hundred cars there, and you're like, where was that yellow Corvette I was hanging out with on racetrack? Like, I would love to do like some race car hands with them or something, and you just don't know where they are, right? But like in that like after meeting, that meeting after the session, like I think that's really useful, and I do think it adds something to the event.
Agreed. Yeah, when I was club racing in the SCCA the first year and a half before, like just regional races, they would always impound the whole field after, I want to say qualifying, and they would have everybody get out of the cars and they would call a little drivers meeting over. And it was never like one to write home about, but it was always like a place where all of us came together and like had a little conversation with somebody after qualifying at least. Um, I think that system works pretty well.
Yeah, you do kind of the same thing in autocross as well, where it's like you go to an impound after you run, if it's like a pro solo, or maybe you just stay in your grid, but it creates like a hangout like area after the competition is done. Uh, and I think that's good for the sport. It's good for the community. It's good for like the camaraderie. It's good for people who are new because they get to go ask questions. Like they have like a area to do that in. Eh,
Yeah.
GLTC kinda had that, but you had to do well enough to get into to to get into impound.
Yeah, that's the difference. If it's just impound, then that's a different effect. This is
Yeah.
like a whole group,
Yeah, I
collection coming
I
together.
think having a whole group collection is actually like a net positive, and I'd be curious if somebody had like a different point. They're like, "No, that sounds annoying. Like, I just wanna go to the paddock and, like, start eating my Pop-Tart or something." Like, I don't know. Maybe, like, if you have that different viewpoint, like, please let me know, but I'm trying to think of, like, every single time there was a meeting after a session, and I think it was a net positive overall for the event.
Yep. I think like organized social aspects of events is a sign of a good event.
Yeah.
Like when, li- uh, since you said it, SCCA does uh, a really good job recently with like the time trial and autocross big events at the end of one of the days.
Yep.
Like our ASM block parties, that's anything that happens like that where like everybody wants to come together and see each other at the end of the day is a sign of a really good event.
Yeah. And you have to like Aaron Lichty, he had that like chili cook-off thing, so it like brought everyone from all over the paddock into like one area of the garage where you're like going around and like I have to see exactly ooh, I liked number 2 chili, and you like talking about chili with everyone else, and then yeah, obviously some race car stuff in there mixed in and stuff like I think I think people's like perception of a good event almost needs to have like a good social aspect to it.
Agreed, totally.
So like that I feel like that almost has to be built in a way, whether it's like after or beginning or part of the organization from like session to session. Like I think I think that is overlooked a lot. And I'm wondering like as far as like HPD orgs, or even like SCCA road racing, cuz I anytime I did like a majors race or whatever, like I don't think there was any kind of camaraderie or anything like after or anything like that. So like I think just having that built into the event will actually give people the perception that the event was better than maybe it actually was. But like at least you have
Hmm.
that camaraderie that goes with it. And I think just also with that camaraderie comes with like an exchange of ideas and feedback that maybe as an event organizer you necessarily wouldn't get because you're not getting like the collective whole of the people together.
I think the like by the community for the community aspect of things is super. It's like an extra push to like make the first of all, I think it's okay that not every event has a social aspect like planned because otherwise then it would get kind of boring. Um, but like bigger events where they have like a planned thing and you get to see each other because you don't do this every weekend or whatever. Um, but if it's put on in some capacity by all the people that are already there, it means a lot more than if it's like the difference in just from recent memory, the difference in the autocross nationals party where it was like all the regions brought different food, and it was that, hundreds of people along one. What do they call it? Do they call it a block party? They did.
Did they call it a
Yeah,
block party?
whatever they called it. It was
Whatever they called
basically
it.
it was put on by all the people, but it was organized by the organizers, right? And then they all like officialized it, but then it was just like this region had wine and cheese, and this region had brisket, and this region. Versus at the runoffs, it's like a fully catered dinner, and then they do like awards at the end. And the difference in tone between the put on by the community for the community and like just a catered presentation thing feels different. And I think the more you can make the community, like, even if I remember there was one block party that someone else wanted to be a part of, so we like brought them in and it made it even better. And they're like serving food. All the hot guys serving food. That's different than doing like a uh, SCCA sponsored banquet where it's just like catered food on a buffet, and then you sit at a table.
Yeah, at the runoffs. I think it was runoffs. It was an event at VIR, which I believe was a runoffs, or it was Hyperfest. I don't remember. But last year we had like a barbecue, and when I say we, it was Hawk. So we had like a
Mhm.
barbecue, and we were like serving people food, and like honestly, that's probably one of the better things that we've done as far as like in engaging and interacting with the customer base. Uh, as Hawk Performance was serving them food and kind of giving them shit here and there, and like just that interaction, and it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
yeah, like that was probably like one of the more effective ways. So like if you're listening to this and you're running some brand that is affiliated with the racetrack, like see what like reach out to these sanctioning bodies or these organizations and like try to throw a party. I think it's probably the cheapest, best advertising you could probably do.
Mhm.
It's like
Yeah,
real
I mean
easy too.
that was the model of our block party. We just wanted to have like a reason for everyone to come together,
Yeah.
paid for by the partners that were already going to be there anyway. Um, yeah, I think social aspects are super important for good events.
All right,
Um,
where are we at on the
what else?
list?
Well, I've got a couple more broad ones, but I don't want to steal any of yours. Do you have one
No,
in there?
Tom, you are carrying the show. I am just here for
Oh shit.
comedic relief.
All right. Well, these are quick. I don't have long conversation points about
I
them
think,
like a
like,
driver's meeting.
for
But
context, Tom, I think you're amazing at throwing events. So, like, really, I'm just taking in information from you. Like, the things
oh,
that you find important are, I think, like enlightening for a lot of the people listening to this. A lot of the things that you've talked about are things that I haven't thought of. So, like, as you're explaining these things, I'm going, oh yeah, so like this or like that or right, like that's
yeah.
kind of how I'm being valuable to the conversation right now. But I think I'm literally saying the things that like everyone else listening is thinking in their head. I'm just putting it into words like through a microphone. But like,
Either that or I'm just super picky and like no one else thinks of this stuff.
no,
but but I honestly think it helps.
I think you are particularly good at throwing events. Like I think you should do more stuff like that.
Maybe. Yeah. Um, so I think clear expectations with consistent accountability is massive for a good event, whether it's from like I've even had local autocross events where I was supposed to get a rerun and the region or whoever's in charge just like, no, like you get six, you don't need a rerun. Like that's not consistent or like that's not how the expectations work all the way up to, wheel to wheel racing and track day organization stuff.
This
If
this
you're not
this kind of
clear
goes
on
back
communicating
to
your expectation,
think like a lizard.
a little bit, yeah, yeah. So that kind of sums that up. I also think this is like a specific for track day group mostly. On track supervision is massive, and you guys, you would be shocked. Maybe everybody knows this, but when I started operating track days, I am to this day shocked at how little supervision there actually is on the racetrack from people who can actually do anything about it. Like, yes, there's flaggers and there's a race control, but they're literally just responding. They're not proactive in any way. And I kind of came from this indoor karting track world where I'm having to be proactive all the time because people don't know what they're doing. So like I can't just skip, I don't know, letting them run over people once. Like I have to hold them accountable every single time to keep the place safe.
Oh,
So I have to supervise constantly.
it was his first
So I
time
started
running
doing track
somebody
days.
over. It's fine.
Yeah, right. Or like, okay, better day, slowing down under yellow, something like that, right? So I just walked into track days for track night, started operating them that way, and I'm like calling black flags for cars that miss a point by on a straightaway on like their first offense. And I'm like, it's the advanced group. How the hell did you miss a point by?
Yeah.
Uh, and that level of accountability caught people off guard, catches people off guard. But I think it's super important. And I think organizers that know what's going on their track, so they know what the product is that they're giving to the customer that's on the track, does a better job operating their event.
I'm kicking myself. Tom, we should have had Ed CZ on the podcast for this one.
Ooh, we should have.
We
He'll
messed
be the
up.
follow up because I want people's thoughts on this. If I'm like off base, not off base. If I'm like extreme, I want to know what other people like.
Tom, the event extremist.
I, yeah,
You've been radicalized by the algorithm, Tom.
I have. I have. I've been radicalized. I'm going to start my own social media platform soon.
Oh
Um,
no.
on time is big. That one's self-explanatory. Um, and then I think the last part of an event that makes me want to be there is if it rewards success. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How so?
Um, I guess it kind of comes back to thinking like a lizard, but there are certain, especially competitive organizations, there are certain ones that feel like they embrace and reward success, and there are others that feel like they don't reward success at all because if you're successful, they're just going to try to, rein you in.
I mean, the
Um,
like the biggest. So like you're literally like one end of the spectrum is like IMSA, and then the other end of the spectrum is like lemons.
Actually, no, I could do a perfect example. Lemons, IMSA and SRO. My firsthand experience with both
Oh
is
yeah,
now a
yeah,
couple of
yeah,
years
yeah.
removed, right? But when I raced 2015 through 2019 in SRO, and I raced 2018 through kind of currently in IMSA. So I have a little bit of both. In IMSA, if you do a good job, generally you get the energy from the organizers and from the people around you. It's like, good job, we're proud of you. That's exciting for you. Good job. It rewards a high level of functioning and performance and planning and operations and all that. SRO, my experience with it, at least from 2015 to 2019, every single time I did a good job, I had negative consequences from it. I either got BOP'd or I got, a colder response or whatever. It felt like it was punishing the more successful I got. And I think that that's a sign of a weaker organization or event than an event that like rewards the success of its customers and competitors. It's kind of an abstract one, but
Yeah, I'm trying to think of ways. So I think that's probably the trickiest one to do as an organization because you like what might seem like a reward to one individual might not like that language isn't always going to be the same, right, for everyone involved.
because it becomes favoritism really quickly. So you have to be honestly, I think that I've observed this interesting thing where it's probably everything, but every motorsports organization is basically a group of friends that started doing this.
Yeah,
Whether it
basically.
was like so there's inherent not nepotism, what's the word? Um
Clickiness.
clicking it. There's like an inherent in crowd is what I mean to say. There's people who are in because they're from the buddy group that started the thing. And you have to be really careful about that dynamic once you become the event organizer. Like when I started organizing, this is small, but the leagues at the go-kart track. And I went from like just one of the track employees to being like, I took my job very seriously, as you can probably tell, and I wanted to put on good events.
No.
And like I'm aware of the people that I like, and I'm aware of the people who annoy me, and trying to treat everybody the same was difficult enough at that level. So I appreciate it's hard, but I still feel like rewarding success is, when you tie it in with all this other stuff that we're talking about, is an important thing to like have on your radar if you're in competition, or even if you're in like a non-competition environment and someone's gaining, they're having small successes and personal wins, like rewarding that is awesome.
I think like superlative awards are
Yeah.
like those are good because it's like okay, the person who won like they got their reward because they won. But maybe somebody who didn't win but like maybe had like an interesting story or like for instance one thing I like that Grid Life does is they'll have like the spirit of GLTC or whatever, and that person gets a free pass for the next event. I think that's super cool. So like I think things like that reward a like a it creates a more of a culture of like hey, do your best to like help out the people that might need help. And look, we're all just a bunch of monkeys, and like we need that, like you need that like carrot dangled out in front of you. Like I would love to tell you that, oh no, humans are great, and we're just gonna help out each other because like even if it doesn't benefit us, but if you put even like the notion of a benefit out there for like being a good person and helping out, then it's like way more likely to happen. And that, I think something like that is like people helping others, it's a bit of like a positive feedback loop where it's like somebody helps you and
Totally
then
agree.
you're like, well, okay, I kind of have to pay that forward, and then you help somebody else, and it just like it kind of like spreads. uh so as an organizer, if there's some kind of reward or anything that you can put out that encourages that like help each other, we're all in this together, like mentality, then I think as an event organizer, your job will be easier to have like the proper culture and mindset.
Yeah, fully. And the couple of really good points in the live chat. Sam said there's a difference between going through the motions and handing out trophies to and making it an event uh, versus hyping the driver who earned that trophy. Like that's not even an on track example. And Todd Cayley said when I got my first ever. Todd, was it your first ever? Or was it the first ever? Either way, when I got the first ever Spirit of GLTC award, it felt more special than when I won the overall weekend at NOLA in GLTC.
Since
It
Katil
was the
can't
first
math.
ever. It was Katil Camp Math.
uh, Eric DQ'd himself because he was too light because he didn't do math correctly. In case you're wondering
Yeah.
what Todd's referring to,
That feels like forever ago, dude.
that
That's
was forever
2020
ago.
NOLA.
No, that was
Wow.
2021. No, it was
No,
the
it was
end of the
20
year
because my car was
2020.
still yellow.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yep.
Damn, that was forever ago.
And then another example of that would be when Auto Interests they do a most improved award for the novice group.
Yep.
It's like not a competition event at all, and they still give out like a prize. Um, Doug Tab says a raffle can do that to some degrees. Non-winners with a chance of winning something.
I don't
Good
like.
for supporting vendors too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
how do you feel about that?
I don't like the raffle because you have no control over it. So like how much is that actually going to influence behavior when when like it's like you have no control of whether you win the raffle or not. So like that's like cool, you're giving away stuff, and that's good for the vendors, and that's good for like the advertisers, because then oh, we're giving away this like quick trip alignment system, and everyone's like, oh shit, I want one of those, hopefully I win. Oh crap, I didn't win. Yeah, I guess I'll just buy one, right? Like that totally works, because you get them to think that they want it at first, and then they don't get it, and they're like, well, I do have money and I still want that thing, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
like I remember one year me and Christine were doing like a greedy Santa, and at like a family Christmas party, and somebody stole her rice cooker away, and she was upset, and she's like, I really wanted that rice cooker. And I was like, well, if you want one, we'll just buy one. It's like $20. Like, so then we had a rice cooker. So it's kind of like the same thing. Uh, so
You
like,
sound like my mom when we were kids, when my brother or I would finish the last of the ice cream and the other one would get pissed. She would be like, "We can buy more."
yeah. So I think like the raffle's good for vendors and stuff, but like I think, and maybe we lost the plot, but I think what Tom and I are talking about
No.
is it happens from time to time, is
Yeah.
trying to influence the wanted behaviors in the paddock or out on track with like a superlative award.
Yeah. I solved it. I just fixed it in my head.
What?
You get a ticket for every lap you turn to incentivize the maximum seat time.
That's how you fix time attack too, Tom.
Well, how do you get what are we raffling in time attack?
I don't know. Another wing.
Oh.
I don't know.
We fixed it though. Time attack is fixed.
We put a wing on your wing.
Yeah. Adam in the chat also shared at my first track day on the motorcycle. On his motorcycle. First track day in a motorcycle. The guy that ran the novice classroom session came around throughout the day and made a point to ask how it was going, give pointers, check out the bike, and talk some setup change if we wanted. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, those community people, they're like, they're moving mountains without realizing it. I think when you're that guy like walking around being a resource person, sorry, and you, the number of people who still come up to like you or I when you have those little influential moments to them that you didn't even realize, dude. Ooh, it's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. That's definitely cool. You know, the I one thing I did, I don't know if Grid Life does this anymore, but there was a couple events like when I couldn't afford passes, so I would just do stuff for Grid Life that would earn me passes. And one of the things that I would do is I would go around and talk to all the new people that were there. So like, you know, I would ask them like, "Oh, how's it going? How are your laps going? Do you want to talk about it?" Like stuff like that. "Oh, notice that like your race start looked a little crazy." Like and like
Yeah.
just have those conversations with those people. And I think something like that is like super useful that like maybe event organizers can deploy is just like the person to go around and buddy up with the new people and just ask them how it's going.
Yep. Yeah, I know a lot of track day groups that make efforts to do things like that, and I actually know a number of autocross groups that do that as well. They do like the novice driver resource where you can just say, "Hey, ride with me," and they hop in. You and I have done that a lot,
Yep.
but yeah, I don't really see that. I don't really see that person in competition much past autocross, other than in GLTC they started a buddy system this year that's kind of like that,
Yeah.
but it's more it's formal. It's like you have to review the video and data with this buddy as much as possible,
I
rather than just like
I like that as like an evolution of what I was doing because then they get more
yeah.
attention. I think that's actually a really good thing.
Oh yeah, Sam pointed out the coaches at SCCA time trial
Yeah, it's like
similar as
the
well.
yep, like same thing where if somebody's having issues, like they have somebody that can like not check them where like, "Hey, look, that's probably on you," or whatever, but like somebody to like a guiding hand to like make sure that like one that they continue to have a good event and then two like they're not impacting anybody else's event, which then raises the enjoyment of like the whole group.
Yep.
These are
All right, I'm
this
out of
this
things that make my go ahead.
you're at, that's fine. I was gonna say like I I feel like if we throw an event, Tom, I'm gonna have to come back and listen to this episode and like really try to like hone in on some of the things that we talked about because like especially like the social aspects and then the like checking in on the new people kind of thing like because they're new people they're not going to be the ones that come up and initiate conversation. 10% of them will, but like 90% of them they're just going to stick to their own devices and feel like a bit of an imposter. But if you're the one that opens up that door and has conversations with them, maybe you're like, "Oh my god, you would really like this person." Like you get like them starting to be involved with like friends and other groups and stuff at the racetrack, then especially if you're building a business, like that's good. That's super good for that business because then you're going to have like these repeat customers
Yep.
that keep coming in, and the sense of community is like really strong for the brand. Yeah, I think uh when and if we do start throwing real world events and not sim racing events, Tom, I think that's going to be an important aspect of that.
Yep. But we're gonna host the shit out of some sim racing events too. Oh, sorry, the hell out of some sim racing events too.
Hell yeah! Oh, we might have one of my newest coaching clients. He's 12. He might be listening to the podcast, Tom. So we got to clean it up, dude.
Sorry, kid.
Sorry, kid.
You're gonna hear a lot worse when you get into motorsports. I'm sorry.
uh, all right. We got probably time for one or two questions, Tom. You want to jump into
Yeah, how
those?
long? To put a button on that, if you have anything that makes or breaks events, join the Discord and comment in there or email us podcast@lizardbrain.life. I'm really curious. We have a surprisingly close reach to a lot of track day organizers, if track like managers, stuff like that. So you never know when this might actually like make a little bit of positive influence. So
You know, it'd be kind of cool, Tom, is if we have like a follow up to this episode and we actually, so we just do like short, like 15-minute conversations with like a bunch of different organizers and like, what do you think like the
mhm.
keys? Like we ask them like just real simple, what are your keys to success? in like
Yeah,
growing your organization, and like we just compile those into like a full episode.
I like that. Maybe at PRI we can try to do that.
Yeah, or we could literally just have them in the audience at specific times, and then we just bring them up on stage and talk about it.
Oh, true. Yeah, yeah. All right. Do you want to, since even though that was a question from an email or from a listener, do you want to do the emails?
Emails.
I don't want to take away your fun. This is a brand new question from our friend Gavin listening. I'm newer to tracking, and I find in the evenings after an HPDE, my hands are very tired from death gripping the wheel.
Mm.
What techniques do you use to relax yourself when you're out on track? Oh, how do you take away the white knuckles, DJ?
Well, look, on track, you can consciously have that as something you think about on the straightaway, like relax your hands, like loosen them up, like maybe give them a little like a little shaky, like a you like roll your fingers. I'm doing it in video, but I don't know how to say that in words. Um, uh, you could do that.
Spirit fingers.
Yeah, you do some spirit fingers while going down the road. Maybe just one hand at a time. Don't do both. That sounds like a bad idea. And depending on the alignment on your car and the gradient of the track. But honestly, I think the best way to do that is to like try to build those pathways of a healthy interaction with the steering wheel when just driving around on the street. Like, and you have to actually focus on it and like focus on like how the wheel feels in your hands and having like a good grip on it when you're just driving around on the street, when you do have the bandwidth to focus on something like that. Because when you're on the racetrack, you don't have the bandwidth to create that new habit where you have a good interaction with the wheel. You're bandwidth limited, so trying to learn something new uh, on the racetrack is going to be super tough. But if you use all that extra bandwidth you have when you're just driving to Chipotle, then and you put all that bandwidth into your hands and the way they feel on the wheel, you'll actually build those brain pathways, and you'll see those brain pathways following you onto the racetrack.
I'm hungry. Chipotle.
I'm hungry too, Tom.
I think that's a really good point. Actually, okay. I've heard this come up a lot, and the classic answer is to do the spirit fingers down the straightaway. Like release your grip, drive with your palms down the straightaway between every corner until the tension is out of your fingers so often that the grip never gets back to that maximum grip.
Yeah.
But I've never thought to ask anybody who's asked that how they drive on the street. Because I assume that they're not one of those people that's like driving at 10 and 2 and like little grandma hands with their wrists, straight up and taut down the highway just to like keep control of the car. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that they're a little more fluid, but maybe they are so used to just like both hands on the wheel in this position.
Well, so on the road, they might be just like one hand in it, like they got their other arm on an armrest and they're just like, they're just driving around normal, but you wouldn't drive like that on a racetrack. So what I'm saying is have your hands where they would be on the wheel, like as if you were on a racetrack, have your seating position, everything the same. And then as you're driving around, you put all your focus into your hands to try to like build bandwidth for what it feels like on your hands. And the hope there is that at least when you're on the racetrack, you'll start noticing that you're death gripping the wheel, and then you'll fix it. Because once we start noticing the issue is when it's actually going to get fixed. If you notice the issue at the end of the weekend, we missed our chance to fix it. Like it's never you like, maybe we'll try again next weekend, but like that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that active driving practice on the street. I've never thought to take it to that level. That makes a lot of sense. Driving actively that way, I think that's a good way to verbalize it. Have you ever heard of the idea of putting like rocks in your gloves?
Oh, what, like where it's uncomfortable?
So if you grip too much, they poke you.
Maybe. I don't know. That's weird.
I've heard of it. I've never actually tried it or seen anybody try it, but I thought it's a funny idea.
Eventually what happens is when you do have that good interaction with the wheel where it's like you're not pushing past like the fatty pads in your hands, and you're just grabbing the wheel just enough where like, sorry, Tom, we all have fatty pads on our hands. You know what I mean? It's not like wheel to bone, where we're not like squeezing past that. So like we're not like compressing all the nerves in your hands. There's two things that happen. One, you're getting way more information through the wheel, and then also when the car's being driven at the limit, sometimes the wheel just like self corrects, and you don't have to be the one like turning the wheel all the time. Like sometimes the wheel just like like will open itself and allow the car to put power down, and you just kind of like follow it around, and you just like you're like a guiding hand for the steering wheel. But if you're death gripping the wheel, you don't even notice that it's trying to do that, and that's a lot of times when people run into trouble. They'll like you'll see like the lazy like go on YouTube and just like search up like lazy track day spins or something like that. I don't know if that would actually bring anything up, but we've all seen those clips where it's like the person just becomes a passenger. Watch their hands when they become a passenger. They are little fist balls on the wheel. They had no idea what was happening because their hands are not getting any of that information.
Yep. Dude, it's like driving through ABS. Like you're not going to get anything out of the brakes until you get back out of the ABS, right? Same thing. If you're like death gripped onto the wheel, does that analogy make sense?
Yeah. Well, no, not with the
Okay.
ABS.
Well, okay, think about like if you're braking through the ABS in the car, you have to undo the amount of the ABS that you're in
Yeah. Okay.
before you actually get to the effective level of braking.
Well, I think modern
I'm
ABS
not
is
saying this well.
I think modern ABS, like I think so. The way I like looking at and the way I explain it is like because I think like you can put like let's say uh let's say 70 pounds of force on the pedal gets ABS. You can shove 120 pounds into that pedal.
Mhm.
The car's probably going to slow down the same amount that it would with the 70 pounds of pedal pressure. But when you're releasing 50 pounds of pressure from 120 to 50, and then all of a
Yep.
sudden the car starts changing its behavior, it's a little bit of a surprise. So if you're braking just at the threshold where if you can pushing the pedal any harder is not actually doing anything, and as you start to release the pedal, you'll see an instantaneous change in the car's behavior as you're starting to like bend it into the corner. But if you have to get through like 50 pounds of pressure before that interaction happens, it's a little more inconsistent, and you don't feel as in control of the car. So that's why I think you should be braking at like the limit of the ABS. But in general, most modern ABS systems, at least from what I've experienced, and maybe you've experienced something different, it doesn't react to more pressure in any way. It just goes, yeah, whatever. Like I'm ignoring this extra 50 pounds of pressure you're putting into the braking system.
Totally. Honestly, what probably my biggest thing to change when I came out of the kind of cars that I had been in for 2 years mostly, where they're manual brakes and and good ABS, and it's just like literally whatever leg force you can put through the pedal, the car will take. Getting back into cars that are modern systems over the last 5 years, dialing in the lack of pressure that it takes to actually get the car to stop and keep it behaving well is pretty tough. I'm finding like the more and more modern cars get, the less leg force I'm using.
Yeah, sometimes it's just like big toe and
Really is, yeah.
yeah.
And then it figures out the rest.
Yep. Yep. Uh so that was about death grip in the wheel. Did we answer all that? Somebody in the
Yeah,
chat
I
tell
hope
us if
that
we answered
helps.
that.
Um, that was a question from Gavin. So I think driving on the street is the answer to that uh, long-term solution, and the short-term way to observe it and kind of patch it is the spirit fingers down the straights
Yep.
by removing the grip.
You can also fix that in sim racing too. So like you can still concentrate it on the street, and then sim racing, like you're gonna have more bandwidth for doing something like that. So you could do like 10 minutes of laps where the only thing you're not focused on the lap time. You can crash, it doesn't matter, but all you're doing is focusing on the way your hands interacting with the wheel. We're just trying, like with everything we talk about on the podcast, you're just trying to practice in a new habit. And if you get it to a point where you're noticing your bad behavior, then like you're good. You just have to keep noticing that bad behavior, and over time you will fix that bad habit. And
Yep.
that same explanation can be laid out for almost every aspect of driving. If you can find a way to practice it, where you start noticing the bad behavior when you're actually competing or driving on a racetrack or whatever, and you keep noticing it, it eventually becomes not a bad habit.
Yep.
So
It's interesting. This is a thing for another day probably, but I think one of the ways that video games helped me long term is I never knew how to drive any other way than this like performance oriented mindset. So like heel towing and like practicing some of these things were pretty natural when I was like 15. I
yeah,
think that's something that sim racing helps with a ton If you're not, you're building that foundation. I mean, we talked about it obviously, but you're building that foundation with no knowledge of reality, and you're just applying your knowledge base to reality instead of
Yeah.
unlearning.
Sim racing 100% made my heel toe like a non-mental thing that my brain thinks about because it's like
Yeah,
it's just so basic. And honestly, it's harder to heel toe in a sim rig than it is in real life. So
yeah,
yeah, so like it's like a non-issue like in a real car.
totally. We don't really have any other small questions. We have some more questions that could honestly be topics. So
Cool. Man,
call it.
you guys are doing some good questions. Maybe I think uh yeah, we'll call it here, but yeah, honestly guys, the questions are super legit and we love them. So if you want to send in more questions, I think we're going to abandon the email address, everyone. So I'm going to start taking that out of the description in the podcast notes. We'll make sure we have an episode where we like clean that out. But the best way to ask questions for the podcast is to join the Discord. The link for that will be in the description, and then you'll see a channel in there that's Know My Question. Maybe I'll even forward if somebody asks a question in a different channel that I think would be good on the podcast. But honestly, guys, the Discord is the best way to reach us. You can watch the shows live. Like there's a bunch of people watching it live right now. Thank you to all the live listeners participating in the chat. That is going to be, I think, going forward, the new way that you interact with the podcast.
Perfect. What are you doing this weekend?
I have a Friendsgiving on Sunday, and then iRacing's having the like virtual SCCA runoffs. I'm not entirely sure how it works. I have to like read into it. It's different than it was last year. Last year it was done by splits. So if you had a high I rating, you could get in the splits. And that was fun last year. I think that's on Saturday. So that's probably what I'll be doing. So there'll be a broadcast of those races. So like come cheer for me in the YouTube chat.
Cool. I'll have to do that. This was my weekend that I had left empty in late November, but now that the last 3 weekends of motorsports have like fallen apart, I'm really looking at this empty weekend going, I want to drive.
You should have went to Charlotte this last weekend.
I know I went to Cincinnati to visit my parents instead, but then I realized I should have just done that this weekend.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Is there anything motorsports happening anywhere this weekend?
I'm still all ears. I know I say this and then I end up not going usually, but I'm all ears still if listeners have ideas. Also, I think I'm doing a Friendsgiving on Friday as well.
If I could find something real to drive on Saturday, I would skip the iRacing stuff and go drive a real car.
Or even better, Sunday.
I got Friendsgiving and I can't bail on that.
Oh, that's during the day.
It would have to be local on if it was during the day. I think it's in the evening, but I just don't see any event because I think it's supposed to snow in like a couple days, like on Thursday.
Really?
Yeah. Well, at least up here in Cleveland, you're probably still like 70 degrees.
Oh yeah, Thursday, 39 degrees, 55% chance of snow.
Yep.
Dang.
Winter's here.
Well, maybe we'll get to go ice racing.
I hope so, dude. I saw this video of somebody doing like driving a go-kart with studs on the tires down like a river, and that looked like the most fun ever.
Ooh, or like a side by side. Yeah, that sounds
that would
super
be fun too.
Frozen river bombing in a side by side.
Yeah, that would be great.
We're gonna invent a sport. It's like that kayaking in the Olympics, but a side by side.
It'd be like it'd be like rally. You'd have like a co-driver like calling out like corner tightness and names and or whatever. And
dude, how has Red Bull not invented this yet?
How are we not racing on rivers?
Well, I don't think rivers usually freeze because they move. But I'm talking like creek bombing.
No, it would have to be like, all right, Tom, we're going to the tundra. Like we're going to the Arctic and we're finding a river and we're racing some studded side by sides. It might not be this winter, but at some point in the future, we might be old men by the time we get to do that. But at some point, we're doing that. And
I'm into it.
It's not going to be for time. It's going to be wheel to wheel, Tom.
I'm still in.
Okay, cool. All right. I'm glad you agreed to that.
Yeah.
All right. Do you wanna take us out? Oh wait, what were you doing?
Yeah. Nothing. I mean, nothing motorsports relevant.
Okay. Well, this
stuff.
This will be an exhilarating next week episode. Tom, take us out.
Can't wait. Oh, who do you want to win F1 this weekend?
Doesn't matter to me. Lando?
Oh, well, sorry. Lando, love your hair. Hope you win.